Yes. What's up, my friends? I'm Cody Brockway, and you are back here for another live stream on Brockway's Vinyl Bites. Yes. Yes, it has been a while since we've had the team here. Last Saturday we were off because there was other pressing matters that had to be taken care of, but we are back, baby. We are here, and we've got a nice four-pack here for you. We got Mr. Lauren Murphy from the Garden of Delights.
Hello.
How you doing, Lauren?
Very well, thank you.
And we got the return of Uncle Steve. How you doing, man?
Good.
And last but not least, we've got the wonderful Matt Brown of the Playground of Sound.
Hello. What's happening?
And today, what we are talking about is we're having a discussion about our experiences as radio DJs. Yes, some of us, well, all four of us have radio shows. So we're all on Deep Nuggets Radio. We'll talk more about that in a second. I'm also on Prog Radio every Thursday at 12 noon Eastern Standard Time. And then every Thursday night at 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time and at various points throughout the week, you can possibly catch me on Deep Nuggets Radio. Oh, yeah, man. So where do we start? Lauren and I are very new to Deep Nuggets Radio, and Uncle Steve and Matt Brown are sort of vets. I think Steve has been there for about 5 years. Is that correct?
Yeah, I'm in my sixth year.
And Matt's been there for like 10.
Yeah,
11 now.
I just started my 11th year in March.
That's awesome. So, Matt, because you are kind of the first guy here as part of the show, as part of Deep Nuggets on this panel, how did you get involved with the team?
Well, it started out with I met a gentleman by the name of Warren Bunn, who is no longer with the network, but he was a big music fan. We met at a club gig, and I think we were already Facebook friends. I think we had met through like one of the local radio station pages or something. And
right.
And he had just started up this thing called Deep Nuggets, and I think he had it running for about 8 or 9 months, something to that effect. And then he at some point he started reaching out to other people that he thought might be a good fit for what he was doing. And his original concept about it, we've actually maintained, interestingly enough.
That's awesome.
I think he's about 10 years older than me, and he caught the tail end of rock radio in the 70s and missed it, for lack of a better word, and wanted to have a place where you could have that kind of freedom, where you could play what you wanted and had more eclectic playlists and
freeform vibe.
The freeform vibe, yeah, the total freeform vibe, yeah.
Hey, Matt, sorry to jump in on you, but is anyone else seeing Matt frozen?
Yeah, Matt, your video's froze. Your audio's good, but your video's frozen.
All right, well,
now you can do whatever you want.
Yeah,
I'm gonna take you out of the studio. I'm going to take you off the screen and put you right back in, okay? Just to sort of refresh it if I can.
All right.
Oh, there we go.
Is that better?
Worked.
Hopefully that doesn't happen again. I'm in a hotel. I'm in a hotel room in Phoenix, Arizona. So we could be having issues, but anyway.
We're international, baby.
That's right. That's right. Rock and roll. So yeah, Warren wanted to have that type of a concept, and he was also really into bands like Government Mule and big into the Almonds and stuff. And so he wanted a place where he could, incorporate that into the whole thing too. So there was, I was one of the first people that was approached to be on the network, and it just grew and grew and grew from there. Warren eventually decided to step down, and then he's on another network now. He does a Thursday night show, like it's like a 2-hour show that I try to tune into when I can, but I haven't. Admittedly, I don't listen as much as I should. But he and I we're still very good friends, and it's weird. I didn't anticipate this to happen, but in some strange way, I kind of became the catalyst for a whole bunch of other great folks to get involved. my
You
show.
don't say.
Yeah, well, like back at the beginning, like in 2013, 2014, 2015, when I was, building my listenership, and of course it started out very humble and small, like it does, and it's still humble and small, but a little bit bigger. A lot of the people who were listening were just as into this concept as I was, and a lot of them turns out had aspirations to give it a go themselves. And so really one thing just kept leading to another, and that's where we are now. But the concept is basically the same. I mean, the idea was to have a place, I missed the whole freeform thing by a few years. So I was always keen whenever I used to collect, they call them air checks in that's the lingo, but tapes of radio stations all across country, all the way back to the 50s. And I started collecting them. And the ones that interested me the most were the ones that were from like 68 to 72, 73, when FM was new and corporations hadn't yet figured out how they were going to make their money on it. So there was a lot of freedom. And that was also at the same time that music was exploding. The post Sgt. Pepper era was busting out with all this creative stuff, and it had a place on the radio for a few years. So that just fascinated the hell out of me. So I wanted to learn more.
And it does still have a place on the radio here on Deep Nuggets Radio and Prog Radio, of course. Of course, there's tons of other stations, right? There's so many good ones, but those are my two favorite ones. Those are the ones that I obviously listen to the most. I don't care for FM anymore because it's just turned into a caricature of itself. And so that's why I'm happy to be part of, both teams over on progradio.com and deepnuggets.com, because we can do whatever we want. We can play the music that we want to play. If you want to play, I ended my Deep Nuggets show the other night with The Revealing Science of God by Yes, because I can't, there's no, that's how you end a radio show. I just because I can, and I wanted to hear it, and I'm happy to do it. And so Matt Brown, you can hear him on the Playground of Sound every Tuesday evening at 9 p.m. Eastern. Of course, that's 6 on the Pacific, I believe, right? 3 hours. Yeah. So, and Uncle Steve, you can hear him just before Matt Brown on Tuesdays at 6 p.m. Eastern, and that's 3 p.m. PST. Quick math. I'm a drumming Dream Theater fan, so I got to be able to do math on the fly. So, Steve, how has it been for you as being part of the Deep Nuggets team in the last 6 years?
Well, it's been great. It's been great. Give you a little background. When I retired, it's been almost 8 years ago. I had always aspired to do something in music after I retired, and I'm not that great a musician. I noodle around with guitar, with piano, but never really, in my mind, worthy to perform. So I thought, well, as much as I love music, and I do have a rather decent sized library, why not see if I can do something on the radio show? Do a radio show of some sorts. And of course, I'd been friends with Matt for a long, long time, and I knew he was doing a radio show. And so I approached Matt and asked him, hey, can you talk to Bob, who by that time was the manager of the station?
Yeah.
And Matt said, sure, I'll contact him, And at that time, Deep Nuggets was kind of in a little bit of a funk, and Bob wasn't sure about whether he wanted to add more people or what. At the time they did have quite a few DJs, which we've since people have left, or as the case of one of our beloved DJs who passed away. finally, after about 10 months, Bob finally gave the green light and said, yeah, you know what? Go ahead and do it. And then we found out later that Bob and I did know each other because Bob came from Southern California. And through going to Yes concerts and stuff, I figured out, that's right. I know Bob. We used to go to concerts together. We used to, do the pre-show gatherings and stuff. And
look who's in the house, the most loyal Deep Nuggets listener, at least.
You bet.
Richard,
Mr.
what's up?
Busey. Good morning, good afternoon.
Dude.
What's up, Richard? Sorry to jump in on you there, Steve.
That's all right. That's all right. Hey, jump in anytime when Richard comes on. So I put everything together, and actually Matt actually came out to my house a little computer illiterate at the time, as far as setting the program up and everything. And Matt came out and graciously helped me out and got me up and running and helped me put together my promo, which, by the way, I got to replace my promo. It's old, it's outdated. We kind of did it on the fly, and I'm not that happy with it. I've put together a few things, but I'm going to get the time together to finalize one and get you guys out a new promo. And
just make a new one and say rack a bunch of times.
Yeah. But so I got started, and of course doing the show is even though I've been doing it this long, I'm just as nervous today as I was the first day I did my show. It may not come across over the radio or over the internet, I should say. But and in fact, I even talked to Bob about it, and Bob even says after all these years, he has butterflies when he starts his show each time.
Yeah,
I think we all have a little bit of trepidation, about going on. How am I going to sound? How things going to work? And but I think we might go around again and talk about how we format our shows. What do you say, Cody, or should I do that now?
Yeah, you know what? I love the freeform aspect of this. I literally have a wild show. I already know it's going to be wild coming up next week because I'm like, you know what? I want to play at least one set of songs that I grew up with in the 2000s. And you know what? You can do that because it's totally freeform. I look a lot at, I listen to most everyone's show. I listen to especially Lorne here. I've not even missed a Rogue show that he's done. I've listened to every show that Lorne has done in the Garden of Delights. You can catch him.
Stop it.
Well, we started at the same time, right? And so you're my friend, and I'm just gonna support you in any way I can. The Garden of Delights at 5 p.m. Eastern Standard Time every Saturday, and that's 2 p.m. on the Pacific. Deepnuggets.com. I never forget the address, the website URL, because of Steven's promo on the station at www.deepnuggets.com.
Oh, yeah.
Good old SDM.
Oh yeah, and we'll get to him in a minute. I think he's just great. But every Tuesday I'm listening to you guys back to back too. I think the only time I've ever missed a Tuesday was when I went to go see Tool.
Okay.
And that happened to fall on a Tuesday night. Other than that, I'm very loyal. Like I'm there any chance I get. I'll be driving along for work, and I'll plug my phone into the car and get Deep Nuggets blasting out there. And then you guys will inevitably play such a great song that I have to find a place to pull over and write in the comments, man, I love the song. So good. But yeah, just the freeform aspect of it is really interesting. And I like that with both of my shows on Prog Radio and Deep Nuggets Radio. Of course, Prog Radio is more prog-based, but they do allow a lot of prog-adjacent stuff. So, like, you can play Iron Maiden and Metallica and those sort of longer tracks that are more like Orion or Rime of the Ancient Mariner, things like that.
Right.
But I love the fact that we're given full creative control with these shows. and Deep Nuggets especially. I've got a show, like I was sort of getting at. I got a show coming up next week, Thursday, 8 p.m. Eastern, and I have one set, and obviously I've got my prog and the heavy metal and all the stuff that I play a lot of. But I have one set. I'm like, you know what? I saw Steven play, like he plays Avril Lavigne, he plays Eminem, he plays Metallica, Argent, all of this different stuff. And like last night he was playing Train. I clicked on and Train came on. I was like, wow, I did not expect this. And obviously the bass player just passed away, unfortunately, RIP to him. But I'm like, geez, like and it just brought me back to listening to that album when I was a kid with my mom, way back in her minivan, way back in the day. So I'm like, you know what? I want to do a set of songs because you know what? Steven just plays whatever he wants. And Steve Browning also just plays whatever he wants. Matt, Lauren, we all do the same thing, right? And I'm like, I'm going to do a set where I just play 2000s gems that I grew up with. So I've got a set of like Avril Lavigne, Eminem, Nickelback, stuff that I listened to at the time growing up, and so that'll be at least in one set next week. And then of course just whatever Frank Zappa, whatever other stuff I want to throw in around it, but because we can. And and the listeners seem to dig it. The people seem to appreciate the variety, and I think that's important. David Story is another guy that listens to the show a lot. He listens to, I think he listens to every time I post. I think we all have our Facebook groups, right? So you've got the Music Box with Uncle Steve on Facebook. Lauren has the Garden of Delights with Lauren Murphy. Matt has the Playground of Sound, and I've got Brockway's Vinyl Bites on Facebook, not just on YouTube. And so when I put out posts when the show starts, and I'll tag everyone in the comments. Who will, just to get it out there that I'm on, and people will come listen. And David Story, God bless him, man. He's always there. Richard Fusey, the same. He's usually there. Of course, my show runs kind of late, so it runs till midnight my time, right? Or 11 my time. Sometimes midnight when I'm feeling kind of, into it, right? But yeah, so we thank the loyal listeners, and the shows are still growing, right? Like especially me and Lauren, like our shows are still new, so we don't have the members in our Facebook groups that like the Playground of Sound or maybe Uncle Steve would have too. I know Matt's got something like 650 people because you've been doing it for so long, right? And so that will continue to grow over time.
I don't know. I mean, the thing about the Facebook algorithm though, and the thing about Facebook in general is that I learned this not only from Bob, but I remember Warren telling me about it back in the day too, that the only interaction we get are with people who post on those pages, or if anyone texts you or something.
Yeah.
But there are other people listening outside of social media, and I didn't know that for sure. I mean, we used to have the ability to look at a kind of a global map, and it would pop up like, it didn't pop up anything sensitive, but it would pop up like, oh, okay, someone's listening in Virginia, and someone's listening in England, and someone's listening in Montana, and like you could tell by where they would pop up on the map, like the IP addresses or whatever. But
so Bob has the capability of doing that.
Well, we used to. I don't know if the software can still do that. I mean, it's possible that maybe it still can. We should probably ask him. But my point is that it's good to have that base where we can interact with people in real time. But that said, there's a lot of people that listen that aren't on Facebook. They aren't necessarily on social media. I mean, I think I have a few. Every now and then I'll post that on my Instagram, I'll post that I'm gonna do a show. And so I know people who are on IG that aren't on Facebook, and they might listen. And so it's and the other thing is that I know there's a lot of people who've joined the page that are just on the page. They don't listen.
Yes.
Like, okay, I try to filter some of that stuff out, but there's folks, that also, there's like in Cody's case, like you're driving or you're out doing other stuff, not necessarily connected to something where you want to multitask like that while you're listening to a show. So
yeah,
but it's definitely a gradual process. I'm so grateful for everybody who listens, and I like the interaction. The people who are listening who aren't on social media, I kind of wish they were, because then it would be much easier for them to make requests and have that kind of one-on-one interaction. But it is what it is. So
yeah, and the station does pretty good numbers wise, right? Like it does pretty good.
well, it's done well enough, and the yearly donation request that we do has been enough to sustain us to where we don't have to run ads, and we don't, other than our own, we don't have to run commercials, and we don't have to be beholden to anyone else's idea of what it should be. And that's been a long time goal of everyone. Bob in particular has been great about mobilizing everyone to do that. And so that's why once a year we'll do that pledge drive, for lack of a better word. And
I can't wait for mine.
it's fun.
I'll interject here
Yeah.
that Cody, you and Lauren, you both came in more or less in better days with Deep Nuggets, because for many years the DJs were putting money in. We were we all had a monthly stipend that we had to put into the station just to keep the station running. And it's only been the last 2 or 3 years the viewers or listeners, I should say, out there have been putting in enough money to sustain the station and the cost to run it and keep it up and going and stuff. And I just noticed that Richard Fusi just posted a few people will post on the page, but plenty listen, and that is true. Bob last year put out a little blurb on our own page.
Yeah,
the conference page for the DJs, that at any one time, even when the DJs aren't on, that we could have 150 to 200 people listening, and then whenever there's a live show going on, that number just jumps.
Yeah, that's good to know, right? That's good info.
Yeah, you may interact with 10 or 15 people on your show, on your Facebook page, on a one-on-one type of basis, but there are plenty of people out there listening.
Yeah, and that's a good point. That's a good point made there. I mean, sometimes it's easy to forget when you only see what's on your page, but that's a worldwide thing that's been going for longer than some of us have even known about the show, right? About the whole station.
I'm happy with 10 people posting on my Facebook. I just want someone to keep me occupied during the show while the show's running, so I'm not just sitting there bored. It's 4 hours. I'm getting this in now because Cody totally skipped over me. So
I was going to ask you.
So, yeah,
I was going to ask you something.
I came on and did a show here on YouTube, and it was with Matt, and Steve might have been there. I can't remember. And you talking about your show, and I was like, oh, I'll check it out. So I checked it out the following Tuesday. It was only a couple of days later, and I was like, oh, this is cool. I should do this. I always kind of thought I should. I've got 3,000 albums, and I like to talk about music, and I think people out there should be listening to better music than they are, by and large.
Yep.
So why not try this? And so what I came up with was the idea of basing my show around the kinds of shows that I used to listen to when I was a teenager at like 3 a.m, listening to the graveyard shifts on either the college radio stations, which were the best ones around here. We have one called CFMU, McMaster University in Hamilton, 93.3. And so he's not even listening to me now. He's talking about me.
Oh my gosh. Well, when you're done, I have a question for you.
Great. the graveyard shift. You know, my little transistor radio, just lying in bed listening to this thing, staying up as late as I possibly could until I fell asleep, and just hearing the DJs who could talk as long as they want, play whatever they want. Like Cody was saying earlier, you know, he plays 20-minute Yes song to end the show. Like last night, I ended my show with Caravan, 9 Feet Underground, you know, big 20-something minute epic.
Yeah.
You know, how many people hear that on the radio, you know? They're like, it's Wish You Were Here and Back in Black repeated 100 times a day. That's what radio is now for you know, FM classic rock radio and stuff. So I just figured, why not, originally 3 hours, but now 4, why not do 3 hours of that kind of stuff? And hopefully people out there would be like I was many years ago, lying in bed listening to my transistor radio and hearing cool music. It could be anything, because I do go from film score music to prog rock to heavy rock to singer-songwriter to my heyday of the 80s. Matt and I are around the same age, so
Right.
you know, you know, because I loved stuff like The Cure and I loved Love and Rockets, and so that kind of thing as well, and just do a huge long mix. And so if someone is tuned in at the right time, they'll be, oh, I like this set, you know, and then they'll be able to wait till you hear the next one, you're gonna hate it. So that was basically the idea around my show. Did you have a question, Cody?
So I was actually, I know we spent a lot of time with Matt and Steve. I was working into a question for you that I was going to get to seg into.
Please.
Into what you had to say. So I wanted to ask you, because you put together really elaborate, eclectic shows. What is the process like for you in putting together a show for the Garden of Delights?
Well, I'm hyper perfectionist about it to a fault, because it's been, I know Bob said this to me one time. He said, STM, there he is.
Yeah, man. What's up, Steven? His ears must have been buzzing.
STM, I think personally, and this is nothing against anyone else's show, I think his show is the best one on the station. I think that he is
got a very fine show.
The most professional sounding on the air. I think he's very knowledgeable. He's very informative, and his shows are very well laid out.
That's not what you were saying 5 minutes ago, Lauren. Just kidding.
Lies.
I'm just playing with you. No, so tell us more about how you set up your playlists and your set list for the show.
Bob was saying to me one time that he spends longer on the show than it takes to air it, and I'm the same way. I spend the better part of the week putting those together and making sure that they blend well and that this works with this, and hopefully come up with a cohesive show that works and that fits in different styles. So it's not just all prog, because that can be pretty tiring even to prog fans.
Yeah.
Or all metal or all this or that. I don't really play much metal, actually. Cody takes care of most of that for the week. You know, and just, yeah, and coming up with what I'm going to say about them, or what I just already know. I'll just write down little bullet points about what I'm going to say. Yeah, a 4-hour show does take.
Should we invite Steven on? Should we send out the link to have him come on with us?
Steven, you want to join us?
Definitely.
All right, Steven, I'm going to send you a message to your Facebook, and you can come join us, okay? If you want to. I'm going to drop you a message right now.
I'm going to get something here.
This is like a Deep Nuggets family reunion here, man. Oh, so yeah. So Lauren, what was it like doing your first show? What was it like coming on and just getting in there? What was it like for you?
Well, I thought it went well until I look back on it, having done much better shows. It was a bit problematic just with technical issues and things that, like, my mic was too quiet, and I was cutting out because I was trying to record to the same hard drive, because I have an old-fashioned hard drive in my PC, I was recording to the same drive as I was reading from, and so the computer was starting to sputter, and I would lose connection. And all right,
That's a no from Steven today, but it's
Oh,
okay. He'll come
Someday.
sometime.
but yeah, they've improved pretty quickly after that, especially once I learned a very quick and easy fix to that problem. I just bought a little USB thumb drive and record to that instead. So I don't have the PC problems the same way anymore. I learned how to use the mic, which should have been quite simple, but I'm a simple-minded guy sometimes. And when it comes to
That's why we get along so well.
yeah, I'm not very smart. But yeah, that's basically I mean, I got the show tonight. It's coming up in a few hours, 5:00, and it's starting off with film score. Fully instrumental set. There's a giveaway for you there.
Awesome.
And going into my usual kind of a jazzy bit, and because I do love a lot of jazz and a lot of jazz fusion. So that's always a component of the show as well. And the 80s stuff and the heavier stuff. A lot of times I'll end with heavy stuff.
Yeah, I love that.
Especially if I'm transitioning, like if Cody's going to follow me, if he's taking one of his 14 rogue slots for the week, I'll set up like a metal or a heavier. For me, heavier. I don't really get too crazy into the metal, but it'll be more like 70s heavy metal.
You like stuff like Pantera and Megadeth and that stuff too, right?
It's over the years as I got older, I find a lot of metal very samey now. It's quite a narrow genre because it has to conform to certain rules. So
look who we have in the house down here, boys.
Hey, Tara.
What's up?
We got so the Deep Nuggets boys having the crack. That means in Irish, that's like good times. Crack means good. Crack over here means something else.
Having the crack over here would not be a good idea. Would not be advisable.
No.
Yeah, we're having a bunch of crack. Here you go, Steve.
Just remember, it's not a crack house; it's a crack home.
No, it's a madhouse.
There you go.
Right. We would all sound very, very different if we were dealing with the North American version of that word. Yes.
Yeah.
So, Lauren, do you have anything about any of the other guys' show? I got some questions, but I want to go around and see if you guys have anything to ask or want to know about. Or
the other guys' shows are great. I mean, and also there are people who aren't here that also have great shows. I think Alex does a really great show.
Yeah.
I love his laid back vibe. He's just having the time of his life every time he's on there. He's laughing away. It's like you're just partying with him in his kitchen. You've been to a house party and the party always ends up in the kitchen, right? And that's kind of what it feels like when you listen to his show. And it's very eclectic. He'll play just about anything, really. So his is another one I really, really like. I don't get a chance to hear it as often. Sundays and Mondays are tough for me to tune in, but I try to.
So you mentioned about Alex, and that's a good point I want to bring up. A couple of weeks ago, I was here on a Monday night, and he played an entire set from this Grateful Dead box set. So he did the whole side. He did all the beginning of the show from May 9th. 77, and it went from Help on the Way to Franklin's Tower. Now that's a good solid 25 minutes of music there. I know it's only 2 songs, but so he's just like, oh yeah, hell with it. I'm just gonna go for it and just play it all. He also played all of Pictures at an Exhibition, both sides of the album, because it's only 2 tracks on a CD, right?
I've done that once.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's awesome.
I've heard him do all of Thick as a Brick too.
Yeah, I've done Thick as a Brick. I've done Passion Play.
Yeah, Passion Play.
Yeah.
Oh, we got a compliment for Lauren here. Check this out. Lauren, your voice is so soft you could tell me you've driven a car into the side of my house, and I'd be like, that's okay.
Oh,
Thank you, Tara.
oh.
Thank you, Tara.
Yeah.
What a lovely thing to say.
I got my hotel room here with my friend Larry Pascal, who I've known for a long time. He's the drummer in our Genesis tribute, and we play in the REO tribute together. And he heard that, he was laughing at that. So
Well, I've got a question. So this kind of the same question that I asked Lauren is, I know Matt has a totally different approach to doing the show, and that's an approach that I've done too. Sometimes I'll do it just totally off the cuff, and sometimes I'll do it a bit more like Lauren, where it's sort of planned out, like I'm already sort of planning next week's show. But with my show, I'm like, you know what? If I get in there and I have something in the set that I want to change, I'll just swap it right out. I mean, I don't have anyone that comes on after me, so I can do that. But and it's the same with Matt. You got the night slot, so you just kind of go in and you're like, hey, you know what? If I want to play Elbow, I'm going to play Elbow. If I want to play Marillion, I'll play Marillion or Metallica or I don't know, AC/DC or Sabbath or anything like that. How does that work for you, Matt?
Well, when I started, I did a lot of planning. I think for the first few months in particular, because I was nervous, and even though I had always wanted to do this, I was self-conscious. You're kind of learning, you're finding your voice in more ways than one.
Right. Yeah, absolutely.
The technical aspect was a bit intimidating, and I still have technical gremlins from time to time. We all do, unfortunately.
Yes.
And it's kind of learning how to just go, oh, it's one of those nights. Okay. It's like a live rock show. Sometimes sometimes your mic stand's going to fall apart and you have to fix it while you're trying to sing the second verse. That's just life, So
yeah.
Ever. But I initially did do a lot of pre-planning, and sometimes I still will. I mean, I'll get concepts. I have a show I've been actually planning in my head for the last 3 or 4 months, and I'm trying to line up the right material for it. I want to do a set of music. I want to do a 3-hour show based on all the 45s I purchased the first year I was collecting music. But I don't want to play them digitally. I want to actually transfer them from vinyl. So it's a big project. I don't have all those singles anymore, and the ones I do have are trashed because I was 7 years old. So I'm trying to find nicer copies of them, and that costs money and time, So I definitely get into. I do like. I'd say that anywhere from half an hour to an hour of my show is planned, at least up here. And I'll take notes throughout the week. Like I'll hear something, I'll either be listening to Deep Nuggets or I'll be listening to my own shuffle music or Sirius or whatever, and I'll hear something and go, oh, I haven't heard that in a long time. I should play that on the show. Or somebody will turn me on to something, and and it's the same thing with taking requests. There's 2 reasons I love taking requests. First of all, I love the interaction. I like having people involved.
Yeah, for sure.
Thing I love about it, and this is a little more selfish, okay? But one of the reasons I love the request so much is because a lot of times people will request things that I didn't even think of. And my challenge, and I look at, and maybe Lauren and maybe the rest of you guys do this too, like when I'm building sets, whether I've done it in advance or whether I'm doing it spontaneously, it's always about like, what would go well with this?
Mm-hmm.
Or what would be a really weird, sharp contrast to this? Because either one of those approaches is fun and valid. And I'll give you an example. I've been dying to do this.
Okay, all right.
I can't take credit for it, of course, but I've been dying to do this.
Don't die.
Old tape from KLOS back. This was like in the way early 70s, before they changed their name. They had a DJ. They were still Freeform at that point. And they had a DJ who was playing, he played Tull's With You There to Help Me, and he played 21st Century Schizoid Man. And these songs were pretty new at the time. This was 1971, so they hadn't been out very long. Right. And he gets to the end of Schizoid Man, and he says, I'm dying to take that ending of Schizoid Man and just splice it on the end of another song that has nothing to do with it. Crazy, chaotic, just
squealing sax,
right.
Sax and the drums. Like put that at the end of a Bread song or something, And I'm going, oh, what a great idea.
Well, there's an idea for a show.
That's kind of how my mind works. Like, it doesn't always get trotted out on the air, but I'm thinking that kind of stuff all the time. So that's the nice thing about the requests part, is that people will suggest things and it'll take the show in a different direction.
Yeah, I agree, and I've taken big influence from all of you guys, from Lauren, Steve, and Matt, and really realizing how similar that Matt and I actually do our shows. Because sometimes I'll go with the whole thing prepared, but then someone leaves a request, and it's like there's nothing more that I want than to make sure that everyone's happy who's listening to the show. So even if I don't like the song, I'll still play the request for that person and build, and I'll rework a set around it just to make sure that they're happy and that they're continuing to listen to the show. And that leads me to a question. Actually,
Okay.
Is that as amazing as these shows are to do, sometimes with either it's the technical side of things or whatever, there are downfalls to some of these things. And I just want to know what some of the downfalls might be for some of you guys. Like maybe it's the broadcasting program. That's one for me. So I'm gonna let Lauren answer this one. If you have an answer for it,
What are the technical problems I've had? You mean?
Yeah, so what are the sort of downfalls of going live and doing this thing right off the fly?
Oh, well, yeah, live. Yeah, it's obviously that's what they always say, without a net, right? Because you kind of don't have one. Live is its own thing. Last night, I did a 4-hour show that I didn't know I was doing 3 hours before.
I loved it, man. That was amazing.
I saw this. It was awesome. I wish I could have listened.
Yeah, it was fun to do. I left. It's funny. I left that request up for 3 hours and no one had taken it, so I took it. And then turns out Keith wanted to do it. Sorry, Keith. Anyway,
I think Keith has something to say to you two guys.
What?
Oh, he does?
Does he?
Well, we'll let him do it.
Oh,
Is he,
All right.
is-
he probably does.
Well, let me tell you, whenever there a spot would open up, 9 times out of 10, Keith was taking them
Right.
until you two came along.
What's funny, I've only done 4 Rogue shows, or maybe 5. I did 5 now. I did 2 for you, Steve,
Right.
and I did 2 for Bob, because I can do the earlier shows much easier than the late shows.
Right.
Because my wife comes home later at night, and I need her out of my hair if I'm going to do the show.
I'm in the same boat as you, Lauren.
She's not going to watch this, so it's okay. And then last night I took that was the first time I've ever taken a Friday one. So I've only taken 5 so far ever since early February. That's not too bad.
Well,
so he's going to have to.
I'm just kidding with you guys, but
I know.
yeah, you got to.
I'm just saying, it used to be always, somebody would say, hey, I need some on it right away.
Yeah, he'd hop on it.
and now, we don't see him doing rogue shows anymore.
Well, there's a couple that came up in the last couple of weeks that I couldn't take, and he didn't jump on them. But
he won't take the later night ones because they're
Right.
he lives in Louisiana and he tends to be an early riser and an early sleeper. But
right.
I love listening to Keith's shows while we're pimping other people's broadcasts here. I learned from everybody's shows, and I can't say that. I don't know if I can say I've learned more from any one person than another, but I almost always learn something from Keith's show and I've known Keith for a very, very long time. Like I've known Keith and Steve probably around the same length of time, even though they travel in different circles. Although we've all been at a lot of the same concerts. But Keith is such a huge fountain of eclecticism, and I love his sense of humor. So listening to his show is always entertaining. And, you know, we got Lynn, who's very enthusiastic, and she's wonderful. And, you know, Chrissy on Mondays does kind of a more of a Genesis theme show, which as a Genesis fan, I don't get to listen to her all that often, unfortunately, but I love that concept, you know. And we can't play, as you guys know, but the listening audience might not know. We have only some restrictions as far as what we can do, you know, with the show. Because of streaming laws in America, we cannot play more than a certain amount of songs by a particular artist within a 3-hour period, which is why I can't do like an all elbow show or an all, you know, Maiden show or whatever.
Yeah.
And that's okay. I mean, I understand why those rules exist. And if that's the only rule, no problem. But anyway, I forgot where I was going with this. Keith's great. He's a trip.
Keith's show is a lot more like yours in the sense that it's very off the cuff, right? He just kind of goes in and starts playing songs and takes a lot of requests, right?
Yeah, he does plan stuff too, but I think both him and I kind of our shows kind of evolved in somewhat parallel ways in that he used to plan too, and he's been at a place for a long time where, because his listeners are really interactive in particular, you know, like he asks for a, he gets them. It's I get him a lot, but he gets way more than I do. His audience is much more, even though my audience does a lot of communicating, his audience is particularly communicative when it comes to requests. So and he loves that. He's like, yeah, you know, I don't mind basing half the show on that, and he'll put things together based on those things. If anything, I should probably do more prep. I mean, if I was going to look at myself and do a bit of constructive criticism, that's probably what I'd say about my own show. But
your show's great, man.
Well, thank you.
It is.
Part of the reason why I don't plan all that much is because I've had instances where I've planned out entire shows, and then I get to the night, and
you don't want to, yeah.
I don't want to hear any of it. That's what come across when I'm doing my raps between the songs. Like, oh, he's not into it. Play what you want to play then, you know. So that's part of the reason why.
Yeah, you know, it's so interesting to hear how we all come up with these shows, and it's something for me. It's like I'll be driving along and I'll be listening to. Sometimes I listen to Sirius in the car when I'm not listening to Deep Nuggets or Prog Radio, and yeah, Sirius XM, Ozzy's Boneyard, absolutely.
Yeah,
Ozzy's Boneyard, Turbo, the Beatles channel. That's a big one for me. That yeah, obviously, but. If you listen to my show, you know I play a lot of Beatles. That's just always something that I can kind of fall back on. But every once in a while, you'll drive along, you know, you're driving around listening to whatever show, and you'll hear a song, and then I'll be like, oh, yeah, that album is really good. And then you'll start thinking of like another song from that album. It's like, okay, I have to pull over now and write this down so I can remember to throw it in my show when I get home. Yeah. Like the other day, I played Shabada Do Ma 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 from Steve Miller Band.
Yeah.
Because I was driving along and I heard the Joker. I was like, you know what? I really like that sort of Santana song that's on this album. And so I'm like, I want to play this. I want to subject my listeners to this because it's really cool.
or torture them.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's with the Nickelback you mentioned earlier, yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Sorry, I know. I'm just kidding. But everyone knows what I mean. But sometimes I just have to see a band name mentioned online, and that's all it takes to trigger me into thinking that's what I should do for the fourth set, you know, and springboard from there into something like, especially with like the jazz sets, you know, you think like, oh, you know, Matt mentioned something about Pat Metheny. Oh, that would be good. I could take this and I could take this and this and make and build a little set. And those are the most fun ones for me to put together, I think. The instrumental ones and the jazzy ones, because they're just so easy to do.
Yeah.
You know, I think Time Slot also. I don't know. I don't know if this is relevant for the three of you, but part of my motivation for what I do is kind of related to the time of day. And I mean, out here in Los Angeles, of course, he's recently passed away, but you know, for 4 or 5 decades, we had a guy, Jim Ladd, who was very popular and became nationwide for various reasons.
Interviews,
Interview, yeah. And then he was on Sirius.
Headsets.
Yeah. I mean, all kinds of different things. Yeah, headsets. And so he almost always had nighttime shows. But even when he was on a different set, certain songs work better at different times at night. It's kind of like the individual moods that all of us have. I mean, I'm not likely to throw on Megadeth at 2 a.m. unless I'm pissed off and I can't sleep. But usually I'm going to listen to Santana or Miles or ambient music or something, anything to try to get me into that place where I want to go to sleep. And so building shows is just like my friend Larry just said, is kind of like building set lists, and there's kind of a natural ebb and flow to it. Maybe you want to start strong and maybe you want to end strong. I'm always convinced that most people are listening to me, if at all, during the first 2 hours. So anything I know I really want people to hear, I put there. And then after that, it's like, and then things just open up and one suggestion leads to another. And then I'm like, oh, I got an hour left. What am I going to do?
I think mine is kind of the opposite. Mine is more towards the end of my show is when I think most people would be there starting to tune in, because it's on a Saturday.
Oh, yeah.
Starting at 5 p.m., maybe around here, the people are starting to tune in, but over where you guys are, it's only 2 p.m.
Right.
And everyone's out doing their errands and, going to Costco and doing whatever. And so for me, I kind of put my more experimental stuff at the beginning, usually. Yeah. And then the sort of easier, the easier, more well-known stuff maybe, which I don't play too much of anyway. I mean, I play well-known bands, but I don't really play much of the hits. That will come more towards the end, I think. That's how I do it anyway.
That's cool.
Yeah, there's a good thing there. There's a good thing there, and I'm realizing that I kind of do the same thing, where I'll start off where I play a lot of heavy music, right? Nothing that's usually too extreme. Obviously, I'll kind of keep it mixed throughout the show, but you'll probably notice that more of it is played kind of more towards the beginning of my show, because I do the night show too, right? And so I kind of do the more heavier side of things, and then gradually sort of move into the more progressive area of music, like the early Genesis and stuff, as the night goes on. And I was just going to ask Lauren and Steve what you guys thought of that, but you just covered it.
Yeah.
Well, I'll tell you a little bit about the way I do my show. I almost always start my show off with first set being a set from strictly 60s.
Yes.
Right.
Since I'm an OG, my music came out of the 60s. I was listening to the Beatles live. I was listening to the Doors and early Who, groups of that ilk, you might want to say. But I try and pull out gems and stuff that might even be 60s, but even pre-Beatles stuff that I'll put on. And usually my first set is 60s stuff. I'll pull out some Iron Butterfly or whatever. And 9 times out of 10, that's what you're going to get for me in the first set. And then I'll do a couple of sets where it's more just straight up rock and roll, and I toss in hits here and there every now and then. Yeah, thanks, Richard. Yeah, he's of the same age as me. He's up there, pushing 70. So I give the listeners, a bit of what I'm about, and then gradually, as the show goes on, work into the more weird stuff, whatever you want to call it, the more eclectic things. And I generally almost always end my show with the last 2 sets, maybe 3 sets. Because I love it so much, it gets very proggy.
Yeah.
I'll do a lot of prog stuff, towards the end of my show. And then I always, because when Matt comes on after me, I always send him a text letting him know what my last song is. And a lot of times Matt will take that last song and figure out something to segue into start his show.
Right.
We kind of work in tandem with this, and it's, 9 times out of 10, it works out really, really well. We're all play a certain tune, and Matt will, what was that, Matt? I'm sorry.
Unless there's computer problems, most of the time.
Yeah. Like last week, Matt had to reboot his computer right when he was supposed to be on.
Yeah.
And I know, Cody, you followed me a couple of times, and I'm going to ask you, Matt, what are you listening to on Deep Nuggets when I'm on before you start your show? Which format are you listening?
Well, I usually have I've got an Amazon Fire Stick on my TV, and so usually I dial up TuneIn, and so
Okay,
I'm listening to you on TuneIn on my television, because
okay.
it's easy for me to mute that when I use that also as my monitor for how the show's going.
Right.
And then when I need to speak, it's easier for me to mute that with one press of a button. But I think I know where you're going with this question. It has to do with the segue, right?
Right.
I do.
Right.
Exactly what he's.
Because I was working with Cody with it, and we just couldn't seem to get it together. Because I would let Cody know, what my last song is, and knowing that there's supposedly a 30-second lag from live to on air.
Right.
And but I know some of the different platforms, listening platforms, are not exactly 30 seconds. And that's why I was asking, Matt, what you're listening to when you segue in.
Some of it is just dumb luck, but and that's the honest to God's truth. Oh,
we got Alex from Beer and Vinyl here.
Oh,
what's up, Alex? Alex, you're going to be part of the stream someday.
Excellent. So sometimes it is just luck, but because we've done the handoff so many different times, I've got a little bit of a system going, and so when I know that the song you're playing is got about a minute left, I start really paying attention to my TV screen, and it's weird because TuneIn on my end throws up the name of the next thing before you hear it.
Yeah.
I think the TuneIn app actually reflects what's actually happening in real time.
Right.
A little bit closer than what we're actually hearing. So I use that as my guide. But the funny part is that one of the reasons why I have my intro music the way I have it is because I've got this little 15-second clip of radio static. It's from a river.
Right.
I will loop that. I'll hit record or I'll hit start on my transmit before I'm able to go on air, and I will loop that radio thing. And as soon as I see my little guide go to 0000, then I know that I'm on, and then at that point I'll go forward. So
absolute genius.
I guess that's kind of cheating, but that's what I do. So
yeah.
Well, I mean, because it generally works.
Yes.
9 times out of 10, Matt, when you follow my show, there is no, we don't go to the bot at all. I mean, it just, that last promo plays after my show, and your show is on.
Yeah, and because I know that promo now so very well, it's okay, that already gives me a good idea of how much time there is. So it's okay, this is perfect. And
well, it's the only DN promo that's 30 seconds. It's exactly 30 seconds.
Oh, that's right.
It is.
But you know what? What's funny is that I remember exactly what Steve is talking about.
Yes.
I remember. And so what happened there was I listened to the show on Live 365 on my phone.
Mm-hmm.
Now, I'm not going to be doing that for handovers anymore because the Live 365 lag is longer than what TuneIn would be.
Yeah, it's almost a full minute.
Yeah.
I think it's over a minute.
So when you said that one time I came in after you, when you said it was the Moody Blues, the app crashed on me.
Oh.
And so that's why I was like, oh, great. Oh, great. So the app got messed up on my phone and I had to refresh it and redo it. And so I ended up coming in like a solid minute or two after your show ended.
Right.
But
a piece of technical advice, and maybe it's just because I'm ancient and you guys are young, so this might not be a problem. I've had this thing happen to me way too many times that I can count, where my computer will decide to do Windows updates right before a show.
Hasn't happened to me yet, knock on wood.
Maybe you guys are more savvy than I am. I mean,
I just pause them.
You know, it's
doesn't Windows generally ask you if you want to do it now or later?
Yeah. Well, here's the thing. Like sometimes I'll turn on my machine a couple hours prior so that I can transfer new music in and I can kind of get ready and stuff, and then maybe I'll have something go a little bit sideways. So 10 minutes or so before the show, I'll restart, and that's the thing. Like,
okay, yeah.
And Windows decides at that moment, oh, it's time for your update. Then,
yes, because you restarted.
Yes, because I restarted because maybe my mic stopped working or like.
Just pause them, Matt. Go into the settings and pause them. You can pause the update for 7 days. It won't even look. That's what I do. I have
even if it's already started the cycle.
I don't know about that, but I do it preemptively so that
I know exactly what Matt's saying.
Yeah.
Once you shut down and reboot, the computer automatically, as soon as it clicks into the system, it automatically does the update.
Yeah, but not if you have it paused beforehand for 7 days. There's a setting. You go into your setting at the bottom there, right click on start. You just go to settings and update and security. I'm just looking at it right now. That's how I know this.
Oh, cool.
And then at the top it says Windows Update, and you can just click pause, and it'll say pause for 7 days. And you can click resume anytime you want.
Yeah.
So that's how I have mine, and then I resume it after the show is aired, like on Sunday or something.
Great idea. Then it would probably. I'd like to be able to tell it when I want to do it, so that I'll do that. Thank you.
Definitely use the pause feature. It works.
Okay.
And I do what you do. I just restart before the show. About 45 minutes before the show, I restart, check my mic volume, and then I load Sam, and that's the only thing I load, so that there's nothing else in memory screwing anything up, because it will.
Yeah.
Well, Lauren, you actually had me. You actually have me thinking about a question that I'm going to ask all of you guys. And none of these questions that I'm asking, this is just conversational stuff. I don't have anything prepared. This is just, I have nothing, no notes or anything here. Lauren said, how are we going to do this? I'm like, I think I'll just ask a couple of questions and go around the horn and just be more like a discussion, right? So, Lauren, I'll start with you. So when we set up set lists and things like that, what program do you use? Do you use iTunes? Do you use Windows Media Player? What do you use to hold your music in?
My media player is called Music Bee. I think I showed you guys a screenshot of it before, and someone was like, that looks cool. What is that? It's one that you can really personalize to your tastes. It's a very cool looking program. It's kind of like an iTunes or something, or any other media player, I suppose. And I just drag directly from that into Sam.
Right on. So do you set like playlists up within that application and then just take the playlists and bring them over?
No, I drag individual songs in and then I build the playlists within Sam.
Okay.
For the show. And that gives me an idea of how long the show is going to be. Then I can drag it into the play window and see what time the last song is going to start. And
okay.
That gives me an idea of how much I can yap during the show.
Cool.
Because usually when the show starts to run over and I have to cut a song, which I almost always have to do, it's because I've been talking too much. I know you find that hard to believe. Yeah.
No, man. Honestly, some of your commentary between some of the songs and that dry humor is like, it's very funny.
Oh, it's great.
Like, and in your promo, I love that comment about Miles Davis. It just where we play everything from Miles Davis.
With Miles Davis.
Yeah.
I hate my promo. I really need to change that. But
Well, that part though, that and the commentary, and you do that all the time. And it just comes like it just like random. Like I think you were talking about Kate Bush, and you said, "Yeah, we've emailed a bunch of times back in the day, and I just told her all this great stuff, and she never wrote back to any of them." But anyway,
yeah, that's right.
Man, you get me. I'm driving down the road, and you start with those things, and I'm like, "Oh, that's hysterical, man." So, Steve, what about you? What do you? How do you curate your shows? What program do you use?
Well, all my music's on Media Player.
Right on. And, old school.
yeah. I'm old school.
No, I dig it.
And my whole show is done on my desktop. The computer I use for everyday everything. So everything's there. And then as you guys know. Every song that I play, I'll post an album cover or a picture that relates to the song that's playing, which I sometimes do on when I listen to your shows.
I love when you do that, by the way.
I'll pop that up. Thanks.
Me too.
I just figured, it makes it something unique about my show, and for those that are on the Facebook page when my show's running. It's kind of a cool thing, and oh, hey, yeah, that's a great album. Maybe trigger them to think of some of the other songs that were on the album that in which I'm playing one song from. But so it's old school. It's and it's just basically I open up the SAM app and just start loading straight from there. But I'm one that I'll spend all week putting my show together.
Yeah.
I'm like Lauren. I spend all week, trying to figure out ways to put the show together so that it's cohesive, hopefully, and one song goes into another, or one set is kind of the same kind of musical journey that I'm hoping that people get on that train and ride. But and then at the same time I also have to put together all the pictures that are going to go up, because otherwise I'm hunting through a picture library that I have of thousands and thousands of album covers and band shots, and I would be going nuts hunting those up to load them up while each song is playing. Yeah. So I put that all together prior to my show. And so I have a file all set up so that, all I have to do is, with the Facebook page open, I just, okay, so that's the next picture is for that song. Boom, pop that on. And so that's the way it works for me.
Yeah, I do the same thing with the pictures. I download them all ahead of time.
Right.
I email them to myself, and then I just have them on my phone because I don't want to be using the computer, using the PC while the show is airing. So I just use Facebook from my phone and just upload them that way to the page. It's easy, quick.
Yeah. When I did that, I started off doing that, and I did it from my phone too. But for some reason, to me, I'm like, it just kind of proved to be a lot, especially if there was like changes in the set list. And so I'm like, I just stopped doing it.
Yeah,
well, that's why in my case, there very seldom do I change my set list.
Yeah, me too.
I'm set up. I'm set to go. And I get it with you, Matt, especially because I know, Matt, in the way I look at your show is you play what's in your heart when you do your show. It's like, how do I feel right now? Well, I'm going to play this. If I'm melancholy, you're going to play songs that are, on a melancholy mood. If you're all jazzed up and hyped up, you'll start playing music that that reflect what's going on with you, which is a great thing, and it's one of the reasons why I love your show, because and as much as long and as much as I know you, Matt, I can tune into your show and I know what kind of mood you're in or how you're feeling.
Yeah,
it's true. It's true. It really is true.
It's that empath vibe. We wear our hearts on our sleeves.
Right. And so I don't mean to change the subject or anything. Matt, is Larry in the room there?
He is, actually. Yeah, you want me to say hello?
Yeah, tell him I said hey. Hey, Larry.
Hey,
bring him on the screen there, Matt.
Have him come down there.
Steve Browning, he's the guy who would take pictures at the Gavel shows. Steve. Yeah, come on over and say hello.
Bring him in. Bring him in.
Come on, man.
Come on, Larry.
My field reporter, Larry Pascal.
Hey, Larry.
How you doing,
buddy?
I think I saw him at one of the Gavel shows.
You did.
Several.
How are you, Larry?
Excuse me?
How are you?
Oh, I'm fine. I'm just chilling here waiting to go to the next gig with Matt.
Yeah, that's cool. That's cool.
Right on.
I've been eavesdropping on your conversation, and I found it very intriguing because I grew up listening to prog. The whole radio thing was pretty interesting.
Yeah.
I'm going to have him on at some point. We're going to do a duo show.
Cool.
Do it. Welcome anytime.
Yeah, go ahead.
Can I ask you, so are you guys from all different cities or mostly Southern California?
No.
I'm the only one from Southern California, Matt and I.
Yeah.
So I grew up in Philadelphia area. So my main stations, if you're familiar with like WMMR, and it seemed like in the 70s, they were reluctant to play a lot of prog. Like if it was any other time signature before 4, and back then I was just being turned on to like all those big prog bands, Emerson, Lake and Palmer, Genesis, yes, all that. And it was like, it wasn't until Rush kind of had, was it Permanent Waves, The Spirit of Radio, that like I started to hear that. Was that the same for you guys? Well, of course, I'm talking like 59 years old. So
talking about Rush, now you know where the top two guys here are from.
They're from Canada.
We're from Rushland, Toronto area.
Was it a experience for you guys, or were they always just playing that stuff on the radio?
There were stations around here that played great prog stuff on the radio that were inventive and experimental and took chances, but nowadays all of them stink.
Yeah.
Every radio station.
FM radio is so corporate now.
It is. It is corporate. It's garbage.
Yeah.
It's like when I said earlier about how it's Back in Black and Wish You Were Here, and then they're just like, and now it's time for Back in Black again.
Right.
That's basically it.
It's the same 3 or 4 songs from each artist.
It is. Yeah. Pink Floyd had more than 3 albums, guys.
Yeah.
Don't you think your listeners deserve or would want to hear more than that? I don't get it, but
you might get an invisible touch once in a while. You might get like a Turn It On Again or something once in a while, but it's mostly the way Lauren just said. It's shit.
It's 80 songs, and that's about it.
But keep in mind, like I'm talking about just like generic radio. Nowadays we've got Sirius and we've got all this digital stuff. It's a whole different format, so you can separate all your genres and stuff into a whole station.
And they've done that.
Yeah, but I mean, like going from like 75 through 85, it was just commercial radio. But anyway, enough of my yakking. Back to you.
Well, you're welcome anytime. You're welcome anytime, dude. Well, okay. Well, we'll do one go around the horn and just give everyone one last reminder of who you are and what your show is on the radio. So we'll start with Lauren and go Steve, Matt, and then so on and so forth. So Lauren, tell us about your show.
Well, I've basically said it all, but it's on today, coming up at 5 p.m. Eastern, 2 p.m. on the West Coast. It goes for 4 hours. It's going to go through a lot of changes, covers a lot of ground. you get to hear me. Hopefully Tara will be tuned in. She can hear my radio voice. Very soft. I've been rehearsing it for just such an occasion because I know that the ladies like it, and why wouldn't they? And you get a lot of this for 4 hours from Garden of Delights.
You know I'll be there.
I know you'll be there, my most loyal listener. And yeah, I don't know what else to say about it, really.
Deepnuggets.com. You can listen on TuneIn or Live 365 or on your Alexa. Alexa, please don't start talking. No. She will.
I'm not sure.
Alexa, stop.
Alexa, play Garden of Delights.
You have to, okay, so you have to say her name and then play Deep Nuggets Radio from TuneIn. And
Alexa, do you also like my soft voice? I'll take compliments from anybody. They don't even have to be a real person.
No, this party's getting dirty. I'm gonna have to put my pants on and go home.
Oh, you're not wearing pants either?
No, this time I won't.
Right on.
Sit down, Cody.
Okay, so Mr. Steve, tell us about your show, The Music Box.
Yeah, The Music Box with Uncle Steve every Tuesday, 3 p.m. on the West Coast, 6 p.m. on the East Coast for a 3-hour journey through music. Deep nuggets.
Everything from rock to roll and in between.
That's right. That's right. And there's my Deep Nuggets mug.
Nice.
He's sipping my favorite beverage every show.
There you go.
Whiskey?
Water.
Oh, well, for what it's worth, it's the same here. I come down with like 2 or 3 bottles of water to make sure that I don't have to leave. I end up having to pee halfway through the show, so I'll make sure it's at the start of a set with like a long song or something. I'm gonna like run up to the bathroom. And
oh yeah, ton of water during a show.
You want to know why we play the long songs? This is why.
I heard a story a long time ago. Sorry, Matt. Before we get back to you. I heard a story a long time ago of someone who worked in a radio station, and there was this is back when they used to play vinyl on the shows, and there was a cubicle, kind of like one of these, the guy said, and there was one that was labeled shit music, and it was all like Genesis, and it was Yes, and all that stuff, and he says to his boss, he says, "This is not shit music. This is really good." And the boss says, No. If you have to go to the bathroom, that's what you put on.
Yeah, it's funny.
Play that 12-minute tune.
You know, Donna Halper from Cleveland Radio, she said that when she got the first Rush album in and no one had heard them yet, she put on Working Man as the first thing she played because it was what they used to call bathroom songs, which were the longest cut on the album.
Right.
And that's why she put on Working Man. And suddenly the phone started lighting up and people were like, is this Led Zeppelin? Who is this? You know, like, because that's the song she chose.
Well, but she couldn't answer the phone because she was in the bathroom because she put on the bathroom song, you know, so all those calls went to voicemail and horrible. Right. And Mr. Matt Brown.
Donna, the switchboard is exploding over here. We need you to get back out here to talk to the people.
Yeah.
Hold on.
We should do this is a great format. I love all the free form. Anyway, Playground of Sound has been terrorizing eardrums for 11 years now, and hopefully we will continue to do so for another 11 years. 5 p.m. No, I've got my times all screwed up. 6 p.m. Pacific, 9 p.m. Eastern on Tuesday nights, immediately following Uncle Steve's Music Box. Sometimes the show goes 4 hours, depending on if I'm tired or not. And it is willfully, hopefully eclectic. And I will say this, if you ever do hear Back in Black or wish you were here on my show, I've got a goddamn good reason.
You know what?
I think we should all play both those songs on each of our shows this week. Just because.
Yeah, just because.
Well, no, I mean, that brings up a good point. I know we're wrapping up, but Alex and I talk a lot about context. And that's one of the reasons why I think all of our shows are so different and cool and interesting, is because we're all coming from a different contextual place as far as music goes. And if we do play something, we've got a reason for it. It's not because
absolutely, yeah.
Or because somebody on a focus group said, "Oh, these are the ones that'll keep people tuned in." It's not like that. Play them because you want to, you know.
If I was just there playing popular music, I wouldn't be throwing on Merlin the Magician, right?
That's why you guys that have the late show, you get to decide if you want to play more, which is pretty cool.
Yeah.
I mean, I already do 4 hours now anyway, but if I want to play extra, I have to go on even earlier in the day, which I do anyway, because I always do what I call the early bird special.
I like that you
10, 15, or 20 minutes. Yeah. Just something different that is usually something I wouldn't normally get a chance to play in the show. I couldn't find a spot for it, you know, but
yeah, absolutely. Yeah, you played the Orb. You opened up with the Orb yesterday, right?
Yeah, a big long techno piece that had David Gilmour on guitar as a guest. And today's going to be, I don't know if you know the band Godspeed You, Black Emperor. They're from Montreal. So yeah, I love them. I absolutely love them. So they're going to be today's early bird special, and that's not something I could fit into the show, really. I mean, I could, but it would be kind of jarring. So that's what I usually do.
I'm trying to work in some of that stuff that you turned us all on to, Lauren, just recently. Some of those foreign bands where they're not singing in English.
Yeah, I know.
Yeah, it's great. It's great. And Lauren, honestly, I have to say, I think you put on one of the best shows last night. I thoroughly enjoyed the entire 4 hours. I was there from beginning to end.
Excellent.
I thought it was just excellent. I was like, you were blowing me away, man. I mean, you always do, but you know, you guys, Matt, Steve, and Lauren in particular, and most of the guys on Deep Nuggets, but you guys have forgotten more music than most people have ever even known about. You know, honest to God. And so, you can catch my show every Thursday night, 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time on deepnuggets.com. Of course, I also do a show on Prog Radio where it is more Prog based every Thursday at 12 noon Eastern Standard Time. And that's a lot of fun too. Of course, you can go over on there in Prog Radio in the chat room and you can chat to me there. I'll respond to you. And, Deep Nuggets, come join all of our Facebook groups. So Lauren's got Garden of Delights. Uncle Steve has got the Music Box with Uncle Steve. Matt has the Playground of Sound. And mine is the same name. I kept the same brand. So YouTube, Facebook, you type it in on Facebook and you know exactly where you'll be. This was quite the discussion, boys.
Yeah, good time.
It was.
Good
and
call.
I'd like to credit Lauren Murphy to this wonderful idea of this discussion today.
Right on.
Right.
Excellent.
Thanks, Lauren.
You guys know that I'll be listening to you guys on Tuesday, no ifs, ands, or buts. And Lauren, I'll be listening to you tonight. So
yes,
much thanks. And appreciate y'all. And we'll see you next time right here on Brockway's Vinyl Bites.
Right.
Woohoo!
Peace.
And of course, the obligatory rock on.
Rock on.